afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Vikings Postgame Live, presented by Mystic Lake. I don't know to laugh or cry. The Vikings defeated the Jaguars 27-24 in overtime this afternoon here at U.S. Bank Stadium. I'm Mark Rosen, along with Pete Bercich, as we look at the big picture of Justin Jefferson racking up huge numbers again today in an otherwise game that I guarantee you, Pete Bercich, they will not be sending to Canton, Ohio to study for future reference. Four fumbles, 2 interceptions, 3 missed extra points, safety, a slew of penalties by the Jaguars. Yet the Vikings found a way. I think Mike Zimmer did everything in his power to prevent Dan Bailey from having to come out and kick that game-winning field goal from the 20. But that's what he did. He didn't look real happy about the whole thing, but they won the game somehow, some way. Bottom line is the Vikings are back to 6-6 and back at 500 for the first time.
And that's exactly all that matters. Once you go away from this, you know that we're back. You're back at 500. Now you have to go down and play Tampa and play a pretty good Buccaneers team. What the Vikings did today defensively was very, very impressive. To lose Eric Kendricks in the warm-ups with the calf injury, to have Todd Davis come in there, and we're going to go to Harrison Smith here in a second, but to have Todd Davis come in, play so well, Harrison Smith play so well, you're going to see right here, this is the pressure, though, getting some pressure up underneath and inside, and Glennon just kind of airmails it, and you could see Harrison Smith as he was working toward the center of the field, anticipating the route of DJ Chark, and he's right where he needs to be. So that ball was just barely overthrown, and Harrison Smith was there for the interception. I think Anthony Harris played a very good game, at a couple pass breakups, a couple big tackles. Oh,
Pete, keep in mind, this is after the Vikings got the toss in overtime. They ended up going backwards. They were 3rd and 26 from their 8-yard line. Special teams, which is going to be criticized for missing kicks, etc., played a big role in pinning Jacksonville back, which enabled eventually for Harrison Smith to make that play.
It was a 62-yard exchange on downs, and that's how much yardage was exchanged on that punt. And you got to give a lot of credit to Dan Chisena for getting down there and making that tackle. They tried to double team him with a loose kind of a double team. They couldn't do it. Chisena is doing an amazing job, covering on punts. And I think for the first time you can really point to the special teams unit and say, these guys put us in a position to win. They gave Jacksonville a long field, which ended up in the interception. And, Mark, no matter how you look at this game, it was – I think what stands out is just – the defense started out slowly, right? They started out slowly, but then they settled down, and they were able to just limit the Jacksonville Jaguars right up until the end of the game to keep them from scoring touchdowns. And this is 2 weeks in a row we've given up a touchdown on offense and still been able to come back and win.
First play of the third quarter, again, that happened, as it did last week. Jacksonville has now lost 11 straight games, but we were talking about it during our pregame show. They've been very competitive in a lot of games. They were competitive against Cleveland last week. They've been competitive in maybe at least a half a dozen games, but there's a reason now why they've lost 11 games. They're not disciplined enough as a football team to make the plays when they have the opportunity. Let's take a look at the highlights, because the Vikings had to play catch-up in this one. And here's Adam Thielen returning to the lineup.
I mean, we had mismatches, and here he is in the red zone again. But I think our wide receivers outclassed their corners categorically. And those were one-on-ones and matchups that I wish we would have tried to wear out even more as the game went on. And here's C.J. Ham, the guy, all he does is block. Was his third reception. He had a 10-yard run last week, catches a 10-yard touchdown pass this week. Love C.J. Ham, love what he does, and I'm so happy for him that he scored that touchdown.
Look at this route by Justin Jefferson.
There it is. It's the bend back. They tried to get the bootleg, and Cousins threw that thing back the other way, and JJ's right there to make the touchdown reception. So, well-designed play, well executed. Jefferson, again, he was so close to breaking some other passes over touchdowns.
The Vikings, Odenabo got the safety here, and the Vikings look like they were in really good position, perhaps put this game away, but nothing came easy as this game wore on.
Yeah, great job by Afadi Odenabo, and here again you see Jalen Holmes getting up in the middle. That's the pressure up the front that Glennon saw that caused him to not follow through and airmail that football, and Harrison Smith knew. He knows. He's bending that thing back in. He knows where that receiver is going to go. He put himself in the right position to make a huge interception and get the ball back in the hands of our offense.
Big conversion here
Yes, Amir Abdullah. I mean, you had Conklin here, and then I know Amir Abdullah comes in later with a couple big catches out of the backfield. You know, that's Dalvin Cook. We didn't see that out of Dalvin Cook in the beginning of the game, but toward the end, he had a couple bigger plays where he's running through some arm tackles. It seemed like as the game wore on, he gathered more and more steam.
And here's Dan Bailey exhaling and kicking a 20-yard field goal after missing those extra points. You can see he's not exactly jumping up and down for joy at that moment, just a sigh of relief more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, and absolutely. I mean, you take a look at these stats, time of possession. It was 2 to almost 3 to 1 Jacksonville in the beginning of this game, and then you go around and you turn it the other way. 420 yards of offense. Defensively, yeah, you gave up a lot of yardage, but you caused 4 turnovers. I mean, the defense, I think, played as well as they possibly could. Losing a guy like Eric Kendricks, right? I mean, during pregame warm-up.
Yeah, Candace, we have that video. We can take a look at Eric Kendricks. Let's take a look at Pete as a former linebacker. I'm not sure you've ever seen anything like this before. Just doing normal sort of warm-up drills, he did something to his calf here.
Right, and I remember when we got a chance to see the warm-ups, it's just kind of where you're flipping your hips and trying to, right here, just to kind of warm things up.
Yeah. Leg
over leg, and not really sure. He just pulls up. So that's crazy. I mean, that looks more like a cramp to me than anything else, but obviously a cramp would keep him out of the game. But it's very rarely do you see a guy practice throughout the week. I know he was limited, but then make it to warm-ups and then not be able to really finish warm-ups. So hopefully he's on the mend, meaning it's not a fresh injury. He may have aggravated it. So hopefully he can get back in, get some treatment, and get back on the field. The calf injuries, they're calves are not quick twitch muscles and all of that kind of thing. So hopefully we'll get him back on, throw a sleeve on it or something.
He's been so durable. But the thing that worries me from just an injury standpoint, and I'm comparing it with apples and oranges a little bit, but Josh Donaldson of the Minnesota Twins had a calf injury. He was out for weeks from it, and you go, how does that happen with an elite pro athlete like that? He's had okay. It's baseball. Okay, he's Mr. Tough Guy here.
It's baseball.
I'm just saying you got to have quick twitch type of things.
No, they can absolutely.
They can
they can actually be a nagging style of injury, and we can't speculate. Some guys heal faster than others. I mean, we don't know, but Kendricks is a tough guy, and if he can be on the field, he's going to be on the field.
Yeah. Ben Leber, another linebacker. We'll get his opinion about how soft baseball players are in a little bit as well. I heard you during the broadcast as well, and I'm looking at the final stats, and it kind of caught up on me here. Dalvin Cook rushed 32 times for 120 yards. Did he look right to you during the course of this game?
No. I mean, especially in the beginning. And we've seen Dalvin run through so many arm tackles and, the explosiveness that he brings to the table. No, he looked like he was missing something, like I said, early. He had a couple the better runs later in the game, some of the, where he takes the cutback on his own and does some things, gets himself in space. But the interception on the screen for him to not even look back for the football, that's just bizarre. So a lot of question marks, I think, with Dalvin coming off the field after this game. And, if you're playing in pain, that managing that pain does take away, because he wasn't talking much. He's been the lifeblood of this offense. He's been the guy talking in the huddle. He's been the guy talking to the young players, and we didn't see a lot of that out of him. He's very quiet today, and you wonder if that's the reason why.
And keep in mind, Alexander Madison missed the game after having an appendectomy the other day. We're not quite sure exactly how long he's going to be out, but in his absence, Abdullah was the only other runner that carried the ball. He carried it twice for 11 yards, so they didn't spell Dalvin Cook. They let him do it, and then they tried to have him score the game-winning touchdown over and over again. They came within a yard, then they get a false start, then they had to send Bailey out to kick the field goal.
Right, and that and so when you look at this game from a coaching standpoint, you're happy with the defense, you're happy with with the turnovers, but you still gave up a couple big plays here and there. So defensively, I think you're making some of the strides. I think offensively, when they go back and look at the film, they're going to wish that into the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left to go and 5 minutes left to go, you had a couple drives. You can't it's not a 4-minute offense. You're only up by 5 points. You got to keep the foot on the gas pedal. You got to keep throwing the one-on-ones on the outside. You got to get some explosive plays to those wide receivers.
My assumption as we turn it to Mike Zimmer right now is we'll hear a lot of correctable mistakes, a lot to improve on as they get ready for Tampa Bay, but let's hear from the Vikings head coach.
Mike, yet another game where you guys had to gut it out. It wasn't pretty, a lot of mistakes, but came out on the other end. How do you feel about that?
I have mixed feelings, to be honest with you, Dawn. It's good to get a win. It was important for us to get a win today. We didn't play particularly well at times. Defensively, they went right down and scored on us. I thought we played a lot better throughout the course of the game, except, we got some turnovers, which are big. At fourth down, we got a chance to win the game in a 2-point play, and we don't get that done. And, offensively, it was a struggle today for the most part. They were loading up the box on us and really, making sure to take care of Dalvin. I think once, and then obviously the interception for the touchdown. First play of the second half, we fumbled the ball on the 1-yard line going in. We missed 3 kicks. I think it did loosen them up a little bit when Kirk started hitting some of those balls down the field there in I believe it was the fourth quarter, and then, and Dalvin was able to get going. Maybe it was the third quarter, and Dalvin was able to get going a little bit better. So, I'm talking to the team about, it's important that we're winning these games, but, we've got to do these things way better than what we're doing, and they all understand, it wasn't a lot of hooting and hollering going on in the locker room the last 2 weeks. They know that, that we have to do better in order to continue to win games.
Mike, do you think they were flat because of the Kendricks news right before the game?
No, I don't think so. They seemed like, there was obviously we had to make some adjustments. The guys playing a little different positions and things like that. But no, Mark. He could have had. Anything could have happened. A guy could have had COVID. A guy, there's all kinds of things that can happen on game day. This isn't the first time that this has ever happened that somebody gets, can't start the game.
Mike, what happened with Kendricks? Did he tweak it in warm-ups or something after he had done something in practice? What exactly happened?
He tweaked it in warm-ups in case, and then they were trying to get him ready to go and play, and he couldn't answer the bell.
Mike, your team has battled back to 6-6. You got a shot in a prayer here now, even though you haven't played particularly well the last couple of weeks. Are you seeing this as a positive heading into that last 4 games?
Well, Joe, I think we have an opportunity in these last 4 games, and when we're 1-5, it didn't look like we had very many opportunities. So we fought ourselves to get back in this position. This team will fight. I do believe that. I think. Obviously there's a lot of things we have to clean up. We have a lot of young guys still playing. Harrison Hand was in there at the end today, and we had some guys banged up today. But we're going to have to play better. That's just bottom line. We got to play better than what we're playing, and we can't turn the ball. What did we have? 2 turnovers for touchdowns last week. We got a turnover for a touchdown this week. Fumbled the ball on the 1-yard line. We can't do those things and continue to win football games. It's a credit to their heart right now that they're winning games by making these kind of mistakes, to be honest with you.
Mike, what was your view on what was going on with Bailey?
I don't have any idea, and he pushed them all. It looked like to me, but I couldn't tell if it was just he just missed them or if the snaps. The snaps looked fine. The hold was fine. I don't know. Really, Bailey's had a great year. So, I hope this is just an enigma.
Mike, I apologize there. You mentioned the shots down the field. Another big game for Jefferson. What is it about this guy that's allowed him to perform like this so early in his career?
Well, he's just hard to cover. Chip, he's a guy that has great acceleration off the line. He tracks the ball really, really well. He still makes a lot of rookie mistakes, but once we get that out of him, it'll help the rest of us as well too. Because he had a few things today too.
Mike, how big was it for Dalvin to run it 8 straight times at the end and move the chains, considering how the kicking game had struggled?
Yeah, that was another part. During the game, do we kick? We're close enough to kick the field goal to go home, or we keep giving the ball to Dalvin? And then, we would have kept giving it to him, but we false start on the 1 yard line. On the 1 inch line really is where it was.
Mike, we've talked about his workload and, about being potentially banged up this week. Did you notice anything from him, maybe like a little bit lack of burst that he was kind of able to fight through and carry out until the end of the game?
No, I didn't notice anything there. They did a good job. They were overloading everything. And we got an echo in here, Bob. Turn your thing off. Thank you. They were overloading a lot, bringing a lot of pressure from the inside and outside. And, Madison was out today, so, that was part of it as well.
Mike, we've often talked about Kirk Cousins' resiliency. What happened on the pick six, and then your thoughts on the way he's able to bounce back after that?
Yeah, there was a miscommunication on the play call. But we can't do that. And then, obviously he finished the game well in the last couple of weeks. So we just need to keep going and getting better, and everybody, the whole football team needs to get better.
Hey, Mike, did Dantzler's interception kind of settle you guys down? It was like 9-0. You think you only had like 20 yards of offense, but the offense came out and put together its first good drive of the day after that.
Well, I think it gave us a little confidence going forward. It was a nice play by him. They're running a drive route, and so it was good. It's the first pick one of our corners have gotten all year, so that's a start.
Time for two more. In addition to the pick, he also had the forced fumble and the fumble recovery, kind of the first rookie to have that trifecta. Pretty good to see that out of him, I'm sure.
Yeah, and honestly, he continues to get better. Last week he made some plays on the ball. This week he made an interception and caused a fumble. But, he's missed some time, but he continues to get better. And I do think, in time with some more strength and a little bit more weight added on, has a chance to be a good player, because he does a lot of good things that people don't notice, when the ball's not going to him too. But I think part of it, just because he's been not missing so much time as he missed earlier in the year, that he continues to get better. And, Gladney's been playing really well. Hopefully we'll be set at corner there for a while.
Mike, what's the temperature of the team right now? You're back to 500. Does it start from here on out? I mean, it's messy, but this team seems determined, even though they trip up, to right it somehow and get it done in the end.
Yeah, Jim. So, usually after you win a game, there's a lot of hooting and hollering going on in the locker room. The last 2 weeks, it hasn't been like that, because they know they can play way better than what they're playing. And so I think right now they feel fortunate to be to where we are, but they understand. I know they understand, and I've been trying to preach it and continue to preach it, that we have to stop doing these things that's going to cost us games down the road. If we'll stop doing those things and we continue to play with the heart and the fight and the things that we have, we got a chance to play. But the last 2 weeks, you come in the locker room and it's more relieved than it's excited, and that's probably a good thing, because I think they know where they're at in this world right now. Okay, thank you.
Head coach Mike Zimmer, and where they are in this world right now is back to 6-6, back at 500 for the first time this year. We're back with Pete Bercich. Ben Leber will be joining us soon, and we'll be chatting with safety Anthony Harris live here from from U.S. Bank Stadium in just a little bit as well. Let's look at the dynamic duo here, Pete Bercich. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen returning to the lineup today, and there's quite a duo because Kirk Cousins found them a lot.
He did, and Adam Thielen is the red zone threat. He's so good in the red zone in those routes, and early on he comes in and gets the touchdown. He had 8 receptions for 75 yards. And then you have Justin Jefferson, 9 receptions for 121. and the touchdown as well on a fabulous route. Thielen's the one that ran it before. It's a bootleg. He looked like you're running the post. He just plants his foot, redirects toward the corner of the end zone, and Cousins just lays it up there perfectly. So those two guys, they're assets. They're one of the best, if not one of the better wide receiver duos or tandems in the league. And I still think on a game like today, when you have a Jacksonville team that's so concentrated on Dalvin Cook, to get the ball to these guys in space, I think we had Jefferson, had his first carry of the year as well. So they're just trying to get him the football and get your athletes the ball in space and move the chains.
And Cousins tried to hit him a number of other times as well and kind of missed on it as well. But here's the look at Jefferson's touchdown. You could break this down, Pete, in the route that he ran.
So it's a play fake toward Jefferson, and right now that corner is seeing Jefferson break. You see how he bends that off to make it look like he's running just a drag, and then he makes the U-turn, speed turn, doesn't break down. He just bends that thing as quickly as he can, and look at the separation that he gets between he and Buku. I mean, just that movement makes him hard to cover. Coach Zimmer said that he's hard to cover. That's what he's talking about. And so smooth in and out of his breaks.
And if you look at Jefferson's route chart here, again, Cousins had a bootleg to give him that time to enable Jefferson to break free and get open in the end zone.
Yeah, you're right. And the route chart here, I mean, they went after him deep. The one ball he caught, he had a push off a little bit later. I mean, I think if you continue to go to him deep like that, he's going to catch about 50% of those balls, and I think that one would have been a pass interference penalty. He's not getting those calls as a rookie, but I guarantee you, Mark, a couple years down the road, and when he's the man, he'll start getting those calls from the officials.
And it's remarkable that he was really a non-factor. Jefferson was the first two games. They're trying to figure out who he was, what kind of talent he had after not having the ability to see him in the preseason.
Well, and exactly. No preseason. This is one of the craziest years that you've ever seen. So
Adam Thielen does this so well, and Cousins knows how to zero in on him.
The red zone route. I mean, you see it's a 3-level route. He comes upfield, stems to the middle, and then plants his foot and breaks, and then but look at the separation right there. Just like we saw a minute ago, he's running away from the corner that's covering him. He's running away from him and creating that separation. He does that so well. Such a precise route runner. That's why he's so effective in the red zone. And Cousins has a lot of confidence in him. But I also love what Justin Jefferson did in the red zone as well. So Thielen, was he a shot in the arm to get back? I think absolutely. Mainly, though, in the red zone as a red zone target for Cousins. 8 receptions, 75 yards. Yeah, it's a decent night for Thielen, but
it's an awareness you also have to have in the end zone. I mean, where your feet need to land. I mean, this is something they work on in practice all the time, but to make sure you don't end up with a foot on the line and being out of bounds, and this is why they concentrate so hard on scoring touchdowns in the red zone, and having those receivers who can do that.
And we're one of the best, if not the best, red zone offenses in the NFL right now. We're scoring touchdowns at 75, 76%, which is one of the better numbers in the league. It's because of guys like Adam Thielen, guys like Kyle Rudolph, and it's different, Mark, because the field's obviously condensed. And you're getting coverages down there because you can't keep a safety deep. There's no point. He's going to be covering the goalpost. So you actually have like a couple extra guys in the box. You have a couple extra safeties down low. They change coverages. You see different things. But Thielen is so experienced, he's able to capitalize on those things. And you look at Cousins, the deep balls, most of the deep shots were the touchdowns, the ones that are a little bit further down the field. He didn't look smooth as I would hope for him to look. He looked like he wasn't quite seeing what he wanted to see when he got to the top of his drop.
Considering the Vikings had
pressured more than you'd like to see.
He got hit a lot today.
He got hit. He took some hits today, and so he was gritty. He hung in there. I think another touchdown, another interception for a touchdown. But I mean, he hangs in there and throws three touchdowns, and toward the end of the game, there we go.
Veteran Mike Glennon, was a quarterback for Jacksonville. Started out well, knew how to try to manufacture offense for this team that's been struggling. But at the end, eventually the Vikings just kind of had their way with them, although they did get that important touchdown at the end.
They did. I mean, they started out very, very strong, and Glennon was getting down the field to some of those bigger tight ends. But as the game wore on, especially late, you lose Brandon Linder, your center. You've got, different guys. Ben Bercich coming in. Shatley has to go over from guard to center. you have a mismatch up front, and Glennon started to get hit. And that's where the interception that Harrison Smith had late in the game, and that's what brought that on, was the fact that he had been sacked, he had a safety, been hit a few times, and he sees Jalen Holmes barreling down on him, and he's just like, I'm getting rid of this. I'm just getting rid of it. Hail Mary, which a couple of weeks ago we let him. We let Carolina do that with Teddy Bridgewater. But not this week. Harrison Smith was there to make the interception.
Well, amazing. The Vikings had only 115 yards of offense, I believe, in the first half. Dalvin Cook had rushed for 21 yards, and Cook finishes with 120 yards rushing. Cousins finishes with over 300 yards passing. So much different complexion, yet they had to find a way to overcome just about everything as that game wore on. It looked like they were going to put it away, get down the 1 yard line. They fumble, and then it all kind of breaks loose, and Jacksonville goes down the field and scores. So anytime you go into overtime, it's anything can happen. And again, I point to that special teams play that really turned the tide on what could have been a disastrous opening drive for the Vikings in overtime.
No, you're right. You get the ball at about the 23-yard line, and then you end up punting the ball 10 yards back. Right? That's exactly what you're talking about. And it's not the first time that we've seen this throughout the year, where you have a key drive somewhere late in the game and you end up going backwards, right? And that's it. It's just, again, how this offense started. You had a lot of 3-and-outs, 5-and-out. You weren't really moving the foot. It took a while for this offense to gel and to get moving. And once they did, man, they were up and down the field, up and down the field. Meanwhile, the defense had turned it around and turned things on. You hit halftime, and you come back out, and there you go. You shoot yourself in the foot right away, and now you have another mountain that you have to climb. And I'll say it again, once an offense gets their groove going, and Denny Green would talk about this all the time, you want to keep your foot on the gas pedal, and I think we let off a little bit with about 7 minutes left to go, 5 minutes left to go. Keep wearing out those mismatches on the outside. You have two of the best receivers in the league, one of the most efficient quarterbacks around. Come on, man. Just get those guys the football and let them make plays.
Yeah, we're going to hear from quarterback Kirk Cousins in just a bit. We heard Mike Zimmer refer to the fact that he didn't think Dalvin Cook had lost any of his zip. I know he reacted poorly. We're not quite sure until we hear maybe from Cousins on the miscommunication on the interception, because Dalvin didn't turn around for the ball. It didn't look like a traditional screen pass.
No.
If we look at Dalvin's numbers here, ending up with 32 carries for 120 yards, the longest run 12 yards near the end of the game, 59 receiving yards. Let's not forget that as well. But that, again, getting back to that screen pass that turned into an interception, it was just an odd-looking play.
It was, and, he didn't even look back, and that's the thing, that he had something else in mind. His Cousins threw him the football. So, but, good north and south. He didn't get through some of the arm tackles, and I think as the game wore on, he actually looked better. Now, some of that was the offensive line and those guys wearing out the Jacksonville front, but he didn't start getting outside until right about here. I think that was toward the end of the second quarter when he started turning things on. He had a jet sweep type of a play, and then started bringing it out here, jumping, making a guy miss, at least making something out of nothing there, as Cousins was under duress. And he not. I know what Coach Zimmer said, but I think anyone who has seen him play would know that today he was just missing. And it doesn't take much. Don't sit here and think that he's way off. In this game, in this league, the difference between great and good is so small. He was just a little bit off tonight, but did a great job. I'll tell you what, one of the things he did unbelievably well was pass pro, picking up blitzing, safeties and linebackers and pass protection. Did a great job of that today.
And kudos to the Jaguars for being professional. You know what I mean? I mean, they've lost 10 games in a row. They're not going anywhere. The pride they show in coming out here and getting an early lead gives them that little extra jump.
Of course.
They're not talking about draft picks. The players in that locker room don't care about who they're going to take next year in the draft.
Well, they had 12 of them this year, and then your best rookie's an undrafted free agent. I mean,
that's right. The running back.
You're right.
Really
you're right about that.
Early on.
They hung in there. I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars have. This is the fourth season that they've had three or more starting quarterbacks. I mean, they've had so many different types of challenges and issues. They've hung in there, and they fought tonight.
Yeah. Well, let's hear from the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins, right after today's game.
All right, everyone. Last Zoom call for today. We'll hand over to Kirk and then take questions. Thank you.
thrilled he won the game. I mean, ultimately that's what matters, and you don't want to win every game the way we had to do it today, but we'll take the win. Offensively, it felt like an up and down game. There were positives. We had some guys that played very well, but there were just mistakes scattered throughout that were very costly and had a big impact on the flow of the game. And again, we're fortunate to be able to have overcome them. A lot of credit goes to our defense and some of the plays they made, like getting a safety and the turnovers they created and the stops they had on third down. To where our mistakes on offense, don't, end up doing us in. So we have to, we'll enjoy the win tonight, but you also have to go back and look critically at every play, just like you always do, and, think about how you can be better and how you can improve. And now we enter, the final 4 games of the regular season, the fourth quarter, if you will, and we got to be at our best in the fourth quarter. We have some good teams we have to play, and we're going to need our best football to have a shot to get in the playoffs. But proud of the fact that after starting 1-5, we've been able to get back to 500. And as we said at the bye week, just like those 10 games we're going to tell the story of the season that we're remaining, I think the remaining 4 games, are going to really tell the story. So it's all out in front of us. With that, I'll take any questions you have.
Kirk, we often talk about your resiliency. What happened on the pick 6 to start the second half, and what were the keys that you were able to just immediately bounce back and lead a couple touchdown drives after that?
Yeah, it was a miscommunication. Dalvin and I weren't on the same page, and I have to be very sharp in the huddle every play, clearly communicating what we're trying to do so that that never happens. And I'm going to go back. When you talk about looking hard at yourself, I'm going to go back and make sure going into our next game that, every single time I'm calling a play that we all 11 in the huddle are on the same page and not allow those kinds of ththings to happen.
How about just the way you bounced back after, the couple touchdown drives and then obviously leading a drive at the very end of the game?
It was just the game we had to play, and I was proud of the way we were able to stay resilient, keep playing. Again, when your defense creates turnovers and gives you short fields, it makes life a lot easier. And we unfortunately did not capitalize on those enough, but we kept being gifted some really good opportunities. And then it was great to be able to hit, a shot down to Justin Jefferson down the sideline, and a few different plays here and there that kind of got us back in it.
Kirk, you talk about Justin Jefferson, and we always talk about his maturity, but to draw that DPI and then the route running on that touchdown, he just keeps improving right before our eyes.
Yeah, he continues to just be a great asset for us. I'm so grateful that we drafted him. I'm so grateful that we have him. In addition to being such a capable receiver, he has a great demeanor about him during the game. Doesn't get high or low, just kind of stays the course. He's a great teammate. So it's been a joy working with him, and we're only, I believe, 12 games into his career. So there's a lot of football up ahead, and I think our fan base should be excited about what he'll be able to do, hopefully for a long time.
You didn't take any deep shots early in the game. Was it just because they weren't there, or were you guys just trying to make sure you established the run?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm sure it was some level of wanting to establish the run. I think it helps if you're converting third downs, because then you stay on the field and it gives you more of a chance to mix it up. And I think that's something I wish we had been able to do. Would be able to create more explosive plays in the first half.
Rick, was there anything you saw from the Jaguars defense that enabled them to generate so much pressure?
I think they, brought a fair amount of pressures, of blitzes. It wasn't a 4-man rush too often. I think they were bringing a 5th, sometimes a 6th, pretty consistently. I think that, was some of it. Some of it was, hey, like there was a third down early in the game where I'm hot. The ball's got to go out, and I didn't feel like my hot route was a great throw, so I ate it and took the sack. That's not anybody but they brought a great blitz, and I knew I was hot and the ball needed to go, and I didn't get it out. So there's a few of those that happened too, where it's nobody's fault. You just kind of play for the next play.
Kirk, how do you feel about how quickly you guys this season have been able to get back into the playoff conversation? If Arizona loses today and they're down right now, you guys would be in playoff positioning.
Yeah, I think the way I have always looked at it is what you have left. And at the bye week when we're 1-5 with 10 games left, I was able to remind myself those 10 games are really going to dictate everything, not the 1-5 start. And I feel that same way right now, sitting here with 4 games left, 3/4 of the way through the season. Those final 4 games are going to tell the story. I remember in 2018, I felt like the last game of the year kind of told the story. So you can play all the way through, but you have to keep doing it week after week. Otherwise, it's not going to matter a whole lot where you were on December 6th.
Kirk, what happened on the fumble at the goal line? Was that a miscommunication, or was it just a execution on the handoff?
I don't have a great, haven't seen video of it yet, but what I felt was just that, they brought some pressure. It was a little loose, and Dalvin felt like he needed to get the ball quickly. Otherwise, he was going to still be reaching for it while getting tackled, and he was concerned about that, and so he kind of went for the ball before I was giving it to him, and then the pocket got closed, and it ended up not being a clean exchange. And so, that was one of those plays that you're just very agitated, very frustrated when you head to the sideline, because you feel like you're gifting the other team, an opportunity, and you're just taking away 6 points from your team. And it's bad enough to have that happen once. I just felt like throughout the game there were too many of those where you're walking to the sideline just frustrated and agitated by what happened.
Kirk, when you have a game where it's 1 step up, 2 steps back, you have to gut it out. These games can be exhausting. How do you turn that into a positive and energize your guys the rest of the way?
Yeah, I think getting a win is the key. You have to remember it's balance, right? It's never, hey, great job, go celebrate a win, and it's never, hey, you need to play better, think about all your mistakes. It's somewhere in the middle. So I was very pleased with the resiliency and the number of times the defense kept giving us as an offense opportunities. Says a lot about their effort. I mean, if you take away the touchdown that we gifted them, our defense just didn't give up a lot today, points-wise. So, they've done a great job, and there's a lot to be proud of when it comes to the resiliency, certainly.
What was Dalvin's determination level like to close it out with 8 runs in a row on that final drive?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of Dalvin running really hard, given everything he had, but also our offensive line, our tight ends, even our receivers were getting involved in blocking the run game. C.J. Ham did a really good job as well, just continuing to fit up on his linebacker or safety, whoever he had to block. So great effort by them, and I think they took pride in that at the end of the game to put it on their shoulders and find a way to run the ball to a win.
Then you mentioned Ham, he got the touchdown, and Conklin had the catch too, so another week of kind of more lesser-sung heroes maybe stepping up at a right moment?
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back, and looking at the production, and it tends to be Justin and Adam for whatever reason. Obviously they're great players, but there is a lot of confidence in C.J. Ham. I think you can see when he touches the ball like he did on the pitch last week and on the flat pass this week, he's natural with the ball in his hands. He's a college running back. His first year here with the Vikings, he was a true running back. So that's natural for him. We got to find, as many ways as we can to get him involved, because when the ball's in his hand, he makes people miss. He finishes plays well. And the same can be said for Tyler Conklin. I think he's a very underrated player in our league. He's going to go on to have a really productive career. And, the more opportunities we can get him, the better. He's going to keep showing up.
Kirk, did you think you'd hit one there to Justin late in the fourth quarter before the flag came out for OPI?
I did. Yeah, I thought that was going to potentially be the play that would get us down there, and then I knew we were probably going to need a little more still to get into field goal range, or obviously need to get a touchdown. But I thought, hey, that's huge to get out the midfield, but obviously it was too good to be true.
Any final questions for Kirk?
Or what did you notice at all what it was like with Eric Kendricks on the sideline? I mean, he's sort of the de facto quarterback of the defense. To lose him minutes before the game, I think Cam Dantzler said he was very active on the sideline. Did you see any of that? I know you're back.
He's one of our key pieces, and I've made it known how much I'm a fan of his, and he is my favorite player, like I said. So to lose him, it's less than ideal. But you obviously live in this league, in the world of, hey, we have to find a way, no excuses. And, yes, it was great to still have his energy on the sideline. And I just have so much respect for him. And so it was great to still have him there, kind of bringing some juice and speaking into, each series. And I'm sure he was a great help to the guys who were playing, being able to share what he was seeing.
All right, quarterback Kirk Cousins on today's victory in overtime for the Vikings. Ben Leber's joined the conversation along with Pete Bercich. And Ben, during our pregame show, we're talking about the fact that, the Vikings are 10-point favorites, but let's rewind a little bit. Remember what happened here against Atlanta? Against Dallas. And the Vikings haven't played all that well at home. So does it come as a surprise to you that it was, I'm saying, this kind of a struggle, but it ended up being that close of a football game?
Well, certainly more so in the second half. I mean, you look at Jacksonville outside the Pittsburgh game, they've been competitive in every game, especially in the first half. And where they start to lose control of the game is they get mashed on in the run game on defense, and they start to give up some big chunk plays in the second half, and that's where the games get a little bit out of hand. But still, they still remain competitive, and that's what I thought was going to happen in this game. They've got a lot of talent, and they play really fast on defense, so I thought the run game was going to struggle a little bit, but not as much throughout the whole course of the game. So I got to give them a lot of credit. We just did not pick up their blitzes very well. We didn't identify very well. We didn't communicate very well on the offensive front, and we did just enough to get the win, but boy, it was a struggle. DJ Wanham missed today's game with an injury. He's been much talked about as a rookie, applying pressure, which has been hard to come by for the Vikings front four. And overall, how did you feel the defense reacted as the game wore on? Glennon didn't do a lot. They sacked him. They got him for the safety, of course. But overall, what did you feel about that? Well, I was a little concerned, early on because right off the bat, they get the tight end right down the seam on the first play. They really targeted the tight ends and the lack of Eric Kendricks in the first half, and they were really hitting us in the middle of the field. And then when it comes to actually the drop back situations, our blitzes really weren't getting home. Our 4-man rush really wasn't getting home. And we talked about even before the game, the 1 sack in 2 games for our defense is just not good enough to affect the passing game. But then all of a sudden in the second half, we started getting more pressure. The 4-man rush started getting there. And collectively with Afadi and Hercules and the guys up front, they started to get on the edges of the offensive lineman. The blitzes started to get home a little bit. Our coverage tightened up a little bit. We had Harrison Smith on the tight ends a little bit more in the second half. And I think that allowed a little bit more pass rush. And we'll take a look at Hercules Mataafa here. He's going to make this quick little inside move. This is the thing about him is he is such little small quick twitch muscles that allow him to get on the edges of the offensive lineman. He's just not a long player, so sometimes he doesn't get that separation with his arms that you see from a lot of these other bigger, taller guys. And you'll see the pass rush, just straight speed on the outside. And again, you look at the coverage. That ball's got to come out quick. And because the coverage was so good, you saw Eric Wilson there in the middle of the field. I think they're looking to go hot in the middle of the field. And when that first read is not there, when you're backed up in your end zone, that's trouble for any offense.
And that's what was a great sign for the Vikings to see because hopefully Wanham will be back next week when they face Tom Brady because they're going to need all hands on deck to try to put some pressure on the old man next week who stays in the pocket as well. But we're going to get the secondary as well. We're waiting to hear from Anthony Harris. We'll hear from him live here in a few minutes. But Pete Bercich, it was great to see the Vikings secondary. We talked about, again, the pregame show, having not been able to get an interception. And look at Jacksonville led 9-0. They're driving down the field. They potentially could be taking a 16-0 lead. They made it to the 21-yard line. Dancer comes up with a big play and then the Vikings go on a long drive and score a touchdown.
So we've seen Gladney, mainly Gladney because he's been on the field quite a bit, but he and Dantzler both, they're just getting better incrementally game after game after game, and now you're finally seeing the game slow down a little bit. And for Dantzler to make that interception on that drive route, I think that's going to do a ton for his confidence. Later after that, he strips the wide receiver. He stripped it, Chris Conley, and recovers his own fumble. So you're seeing him just take that next step, and it's a little step, but it makes such a big difference.
Let's interrupt for 1 second because we have safety Anthony Harris kind enough to stand by and join us here live. Hello, Anthony. Got a big smile on your face. Let's rewind to the beginning of the game, actually before the game, because it's unusual to see a player, any player, go down. But you lose Eric Kendricks the way you did in pregame warmups. What was happening behind the scenes, and sort of like having to adjust to his absence so quickly before kickoff?
Yeah, situation like that, everybody's just trying to be dialed in pregame routine and get ready to go. And then it's just a quick adjustment. So you look around and you're like, wait, where's Eric at? And then you just go from there, let next man up, talk about how the day is going to be in terms of communication and what we need to do, and then you get ready to go.
Well, it looked like they specifically targeted the middle of the field where maybe Kendricks was going to be with the tight ends. Their 2 tight ends had 6 catches for 60 yards in the first half, but then you guys really shut them down in the second half. What was the adjustment there in the second half, specifically with the tight ends?
Yeah, they came out right away, just driving the ball down the middle of the field and targeting their tight ends. So we knew we had to get the run bottled up in the second half. So that was our goal: come out, make sure we're stopping the run early, and then to put us in better situations to, cover those tight ends when they try to attack down the middle.
Now, Anthony, some of the youngins are starting to improve, right? The youngins are starting to make some plays. So comment on Jeff Gladney and Cameron Dantzler, and, what do you see out of them?
Yeah, they've continued to take strides. Jeff's been doing really well all season, doing a great job in coverage and really coming up in the run game for us as well and making some plays. And Cameron just shows flashes there that, he can be a really good player for us. And they've just been trying to play with a ton of energy all season, continue to fly around and do what the coaches say. And today those guys, really showed up. Cameron came in, with the script, was able to force a fumble, and then just the driving on the routes and being able to get an interception as well. So they're having some fun and playing loose, and that's what we want them to continue to do.
Anthony, after that 1-5 start, you find yourself now here in early December at 6-6, and having that opportunity, which seems to be the key word, coming down the home stretch with 4 games to go. Kind of take us in the locker room. What's the feeling inside right now about where you are? Obviously, you got some room to improve, but the fact that you do have this opportunity that didn't look like it was going to happen quite a while ago.
Yeah, the mentality is just, has been continue to plug away. Starting out was kind of slow. We're just saying, stay together, keep chipping away at it each day, whether that's in practice and each rep in the game, and then maybe we can get it turned around. So we've just been trying to stay positive, uplift one another, use the energy and just feed off each other, and we were trying to put it together a little bit better.
Look, we'll let you go here, but before I do, I wanted to ask you, because you got a guy named Tom Brady next week. I mean, it's got to be kind of a kick for you, along other what a challenge to face a guy who's got, I think, 6 Super Bowl rings on his fingers.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. He's a great player, been around the league a very long time. He's got a lot of talent around him. So, in order to get to where we want to go, they're going to be in front of us, and we just got to accept that challenge, come out, be excited, and get ready to go.
Appreciate your time, Anthony. Thanks so much. Congratulations.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Safety Anthony Harris. And before we talk about Tom Brady, we'll get in that in a little bit, Ben and Pete. But getting back to the youngins, as you like to call them, Pete, it's so important. Glad he went down with an injury. It looked like he was grabbing his ankle, leg. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
his calf, like another calf injury. But, I mean, it's great to see these young guys having that opportunity. Mike Zimmer made it very clear. So these guys are going to be around for a while. We know the Vikings made some big moves during this offseason. Guys have been around, the Xavier Rose, Mackenzie Alexanders, and thought, how are they going to fix this in a hurry without a preseason then, without all the stuff that went on? What are your thoughts about the development and where we are with that young secondary?
Oh, you're seeing how much time it takes, and you're seeing the different things that you have to do. You have to simplify. You have to start over with those guys on the outside. Fortunately, we have 2 veteran safeties that are able to take care of things. And you look at Cameron Dantzler, he's making big plays now. The interception, the forced fumble, the fumble recovery. But he also gave up a big throw late in the game in the cover 2, right, for Jacksonville to go on and get that to get the touchdown. So the bad plays are just, as long as they become less frequent and you start getting more and more of these impact plays, eventually he's going to be a very, very good football player. And that's just the NFL, man. That's just how it is, up and down.
Ben, he looked like he just wanted this ball more on this interception.
Well, this is what I've been waiting for all of our corners at some point in time, is just they need to start jumping routes. When they feel like the ball's coming out and that receiver is going to hitch and he's going to come back, whatever they're going to do, whatever route they're going to run, at the top of those routes, just don't stay on top of the routes. Attack the routes like he does right here. Don't be afraid, especially against a tight end like that, to get in front of him and try to make a play. No longer. We're 12 games in. You don't have to worry about Mike Zimmer yelling at you in meetings because that's going to happen regardless. So go ahead now and try to be a difference maker. Don't try to just get the plus on the grade sheet and not get yelled at. Now's the opportunity and the time. You know the defense. You're comfortable in the defense. Now start making plays.
Well, you think about that game against Seattle and how the Seahawks and Russell Wilson were able to take advantage of some of that inexperience. And you hit the right word, the aggressiveness, without being afraid of getting a penalty, a pass interference penalty. To be the aggressor in a situation like that, and that does take time.
It does take time, and I understand where they're coming from. Pete and I were rookies in the league, and the last thing you want to do is be the weak link. You don't want to be the guy that's getting picked on all the time. You don't want to be picked on in meetings. You don't want to have all the minuses and get a bad grade. But at this point in time, I think these guys are comfortable, and they have to be the guys. That's the other thing. There's nobody else. That's the beauty of the situation, the lack of depth that they're in. If you make a mistake in this Vikings secondary, who else are you going to put in? So it's not like you're going to lose your job.
Play loose.
So play loose, exactly. Play loose, play free, jump routes, be the aggressors. Now we can start taking those steps and building that confidence.
Looking ahead, next week, I mentioned with Anthony Harris, a guy named Tom Brady. The Tampa Bay Bucks had a bye week this week, so they're able to kind of lick their wounds a little bit because they've been leaking oil a little bit, Pete, and as the season's gone on, but we know how dangerous they are. They have a rookie named Antoine Winfield Jr. as well, so it'd be interesting to see how Kirk Cousins, he's been playing awfully well for them.
Well, I think with the game like this, you get the overtime, a couple pretty physical games the last couple of weeks. Tampa Bay, obviously coming off the bye, that's going to be a huge advantage. They're playing at home. I just see with this Tampa Bay defense how aggressive that they can be, how quick they are, and how their corners do a great job of anticipating hot routes and all that. That they are going to bring the heat, or at least try to bring the heat against us this coming Sunday.
The one thing, Ben, that people have been talking about with Brady is that maybe they've talked about the same way with Breeze, that he doesn't have the same fastball, the long ball. He's not the Tom Brady that we've seen. Have you noticed that? And not that you've broken down that much film, but is that what you're detecting from Tom Brady a little bit?
I definitely noticed that, and I also just think there's a lot of inconsistency with their offense, and they seem to be a little disjointed even in the locker room. You got Bruce Arians sort of throwing him under the bus sometimes after games, talking about quarterbacks got to play better here and there. And so they're certainly not in sync, but they've got a lot of weapons. And then the scary thing is they have a lot of big weapons, big, tall guys that can beat you. Then they get the speed guy, Antonio Brown, now on the team. So they have a lot of weapons that if they can just stay controlled and stay within themselves, they can beat anybody. But for some reason or another, they just get off schedule. You get a little bit of pressure on Brady, and he becomes inaccurate in the timing. If you can disrupt that timing, he's all about timing and accuracy. You get into his head a little bit, and you can beat him.
Let's take a look at some of the scores around the NFL right now. Look at this. First of all, this is big for the Vikings right now because they'd love to see Arizona lose this game. And the Rams, we talked about in the pregame show, their defense has been awfully good. Aaron Donald and company leading right now as Jared Goff is lighting them up. Oh, my. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles. What a mess. What's going on with Carson Wentz? What are the Eagles going to do? They're losing 14-3 at halftime. Aaron Rodgers picking them apart, guys.
Well, they have no protection up front for Wentz, first of all, so he doesn't have time to throw. And they have no weapons.
Yeah. No, that's a double whammy. Hard to do it all on your own.
And how about this score? The Chicago Bears blew it again.
Wow.
My goodness. I think they were up by 16 or something when I looked in the fourth quarter. The Lions, Darrell Bevell, the interim head coach, right? 34-30, Matthew Stafford throwing for over 400 yards in that game. So the Bears are in big trouble. They've lost, 6 in a row now? Is that right?
That's correct,
I think that's correct. If you look at the standings, the Vikings have put themselves, and keep an eye on that Arizona game, because correct me if I'm wrong, if Arizona loses that game, the Vikings will be in a playoff spot as we speak.
Correct. I believe since the Bears, obviously that helps us out losing, if the Cardinals lose tonight and right now, I believe that we get slid up into that 7th seed. and regardless of what happens for next week.
I know you're rubbing your crystal ball here, looking at it, but if the Vikings, they have 2 road games left at Tampa Bay and then at New Orleans on Christmas Day. They could potentially, if they split those games, let's say, they go 9-7. They got to beat the Lions and they got to beat the Bears, right? They got those games left in Detroit. That's right. So 9-7, will that get you in? I mean, look realistically.
I think it can. I mean, you still have the Rams and the Cardinals play twice. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those situations now where you take a look at the division leader and you root for the division leader because they're not going to get caught. Yeah. You want all the other guys that have the shot at the wild card behind them, to lose. But I think we have a shot if you have to go 3-1 in the last 4 games. If you win them all, I think you're going to be in. Mm-hmm. So, and that's as a player, that's what you really think about is you're in charge of your own destiny, right? You're not counting on a bunch of other teams to get beat. If we go ahead and take care of business and win the next 4 games, then we're in and we deserve to be in.
Well, it's a conversation, Ben, that I don't think any of us thought we'd have when they were 1-5, and people are already projecting who they're going to be picking in the draft next year.
Yeah, well, we were almost talking about that last week. Last week after Jeremy Chin ran in on back-to-back touchdown plays, I'm like, well, there we go, 2021. Let's figure out who we're going to draft. But yeah, I mean, how quickly the season can turn around, and I think that's the fun part of the season as well. But you talk about the games remaining. You beat both Tampa Bay and New Orleans. You're good. You beat just one, you're sitting pretty good. You lose to both of those,
yeah.
I think no matter what happens, with the rest of the games remaining, I think you're probably out. You have to win one of those 2 games right there.
Yeah, the Saints hung on, I think, beat Atlanta today again without Drew Brees. He continues to say he's going to come back with those 9 broken ribs he has next week or 2. It's crazy. Well, gentlemen, thanks so much. Again, Dan Bailey finds a way. The Vikings find a way, 27-24 over Jacksonville in overtime. For Pete Bercich and Ben Leber, I'm Mark Rosen saying thanks so much for Vikings Postgame Live, presented by Mystic Lake. Have a good afternoon.